Howdy again everyone. It doesn't seem like long ago that I was testing the handy Tamron 70-180mm t2.8 lens, a clever, fast telephoto zoom design that managed to be a lot smaller and lighter than traditional 70-200mm t2.8 zooms, while still being impressively sharp. Well, it must have been a hit on the market because hot on its heels comes a new G2 version with image stabilization, which was absent on the original lens, and the G2 version also has upgraded optics, one or two new features, and an even closer maximum magnification when shooting at the widest angle. All that for a still quite reasonable price of $1,300 or about £1,350 here in UK. Nice! With the zoom flexibility and kind of images this lens could get for you nowadays, that's a reasonable price, especially if the image quality is up to par. I'd like to thank Tamron's UK distributor very much for loaning me this lens for a couple of weeks, although as usual this is a totally independent review. In terms of build quality, the lens is made of plastic but has a smooth, high quality finish to it, and at 855 grams or 40 grams heavier than the original, it's still much lighter than a 70-200mm f2.8. The lens is based on a metal mount with weather sealing, and there's also a USB-C port on the side for future firmware updates. Tamron claimed that the lens is well weather sealed across potential moisture ingress points. At the bottom there's a plastic focus ring which turns nice and smoothly. Some good news here is that whether you're zoomed in or zoomed out, the lens doesn't really suffer from much focus breathing. The lens's autofocus is accurate, silent, and quite fast in single shot mode. In autofocus continuous mode, the lens focused very quickly, so it's a good job from Tamron here. It's nice to see Tamron and Sigma really upping their autofocus game recently. New to the G2 version of the lens is a focus hold button and a custom switch, which works in conjunction with a focus hold button to give you a number of extra aperture and focus settings, including focus limiting, manual focus speed adjustments, and linear or non-linear settings. Oh, and the G2 version of the lens now has its own image stabilization, something missing from the original. Here's some footage with it turned off and now turned on. As you can see, it's doing a very nice job here, holding everything nice and stable, but when you pan and tilt the lens, it does misbehave a little, getting a bit jerky. Still, if your camera does not have in-body stabilization, this will be a huge help. The biggest control point on the lens is obviously its large rubber zoom ring. It turns fairly smoothly and evenly, without any stickiness and without collapsing under its own weight, so that's all good news too. Tamron have been working hard to keep all its filter sizes to 67mm where possible, and this lens is no exception. It also comes with a quite generously sized plastic hood, which clips into place quite confidently. Overall, lovely build quality here, and after using the bigger, heavier 70-200mm f2.8 lenses so often in the past, this thing's compact size is still a breath of fresh air. Okay, so let's look at image quality on a full frame camera, my 42MP Sony a7R III. In-camera corrections are turned on for this test. At 70mm and f2.8, the lens is razor sharp in the middle of the image with excellent contrast, and the corner image quality is almost as good. Stop down to f4 and the corners become razor sharp also. The lens stays this sharp down to f16, where diffraction begins to soften the image. Let's zoom in halfway to 120mm. Again, in the middle, the lens is razor sharp with excellent contrast. This time, if we look into the corners, we see razor sharpness there too, even at f2.8. Again, the lens stays this sharp down to f16. Nice. Finally, at 180mm and f2.8, the lens is fantastically sharp in the middle of the image again, with great contrast, and the corner image quality is nearly as good. Stopped down to f4, everything looks about the same in the corners, but at f5.6 and f8, we see perfect quality in those corners again. So, overall, really this Tamron lens is offering pretty spectacular image quality, just about up there with the best 70-200mm f2.8 premium lenses available today, and it is indeed just a little sharper than Tamron's original 70-180. Excellent. Okay, let's turn off those in-camera corrections and take a look at distortion and vignetting on a full-frame camera. At 70mm, we're getting some clear distortion here with strong vignetting at f2.8. Stop down to f4 or f5.6 for those corners to brighten up. Pincushion distortion only gets stronger as you zoom in to 180mm. At f2.8, vignetting is worse than ever, although again, stopping down to f4 or f5.6 quickly brightens up those corners. Alright, let's see about close-up image quality, and with this lens you have to zoom out to 70mm for the closest possible results, and with a minimum focus distance of only 30cm, this thing's macro ability is impressive. The further good news is that, even at f2.8, close-up image quality remains lovely and sharp, although stopping down to f4 is needed to yield perfect sharpness and contrast again. Let's see how the lens works against bright light. Good news here too. Whether zoomed out or zoomed in, flaring remains very low here and contrast remains high, even at f2.8. Important for this lens is the quality of its bokeh, which I'll tell you right away is excellent, even a little smoother than the original Tamron 70 to 180mm lens, which was pretty good in itself. I really like the look of this thing's backgrounds. And related to bokeh comes longitudinal chromatic aberration. Whether you're zoomed out or zoomed in, there's a little colour fringing on bokeh highlights to be seen at f2.8, but stop down to f4 for it to quickly go away. Overall, well, you have seen the results for yourself. The original Tamron 70 to 180 was a real sweet lens, but the G2 version, by adding image stabilization, extra features, and even slightly sharper optics, becomes outstanding. If 180mm is enough reach for you, and for many people it will be, then I can highly recommend this fabulous lens without a moment's hesitation. Well, I had a simple conclusion there, didn't I? But there's not much else to say. Yet another lens is leaving my office, which I'm sad to see the back of. Anyway, thanks for watching everyone, and a special thanks to my Patreon supporters, of course. They get all kinds of exclusive bonus videos and other content, as well as a warm, fuzzy feeling inside for knowing that they've helped to keep this channel trucking on sponsorship free. Check it out in the description below, and ciao for now, everybody.